I did ask Peter, our code enforcement officer and building inspector, to come in and talk to us about some considerations for potential zoning changes that we would put forth, that we may put forth to the voters. And some of that, you could talk to us as to, your reasonings behind some of these changes. I think maybe some of them could be around like just helping to make things clearer, maybe to help you in your job, and also the folks that come into you and maybe have questions or things aren't necessarily 100% clear, and to maybe add some clarification to things.
And a lot of it is to touch on some of the topics that in the past.
Yep.
We are staying within their guidelines.
Sure.
So I guess the first one that we kind of discussed, I'm gonna go back and forth with Jen, that's all right, because she was there for the meeting, was just to define short-term rental.
Sure.
It's not to restrict or anything else, it's just to put it in there, so that way it's in our permitted uses. We obviously know that it's happening no matter what. It's probably good, it's a good thing, so we just wanted to put a definition in there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I did have a conversation with our town attorney about a week ago, about short-term rentals and the fact that we don't have it in there. And so us being what is it?
You have a permissive zoning ordinance,
Yes, thank you.
which is the opposite of what it
That
sounds like.
It puts us in a gray area because it's not there, which some folks could argue if it's not there, then it's not allowed, right? So if you had potentially a neighbor that was aggravated with a short-term rental that was happening in their neighborhood, they, in theory, may come to code enforcement and say, it's not allowed. Can we do something about it? On the other hand, there's also, short-term rental does fit under the definition of a residential use. So therefore, there are arguments, or could be, that sure, it is allowed because it fits under that. The fact that we don't have it in our zoning makes it gray. It makes that potentially difficult. So, if you're a short-term rental owner, and not to, and I know, Charlie, from your standpoint, I'm not picking on you, and I know you don't like adding regulations. However, in this circumstance, one might be able to look at this and say, this would be a protection to the people that are currently renting out their properties as short-term rentals. Because if we don't have it in there, someone could argue that, wait a minute, it's not allowed. So, that being said, I'm in favor of adding it. What I don't know is whether, it's a question, whether we should add any regulations around that while we're here and doing this. We don't have to figure this out tonight, but things maybe like parking potentially, right? And there could be some other aspects, like the number of, I guess, people that a short-term rental could advertise to, based upon number of bedrooms, because I think the state has a regulation, it's 2 people per bedroom plus 2, but don't know if we necessarily want to go down that road tonight, especially with, Dick and Dave's the one that originally brought this up, but I just want to put that out there. Yeah, go ahead.
What are these, what is CNP, what do these stand for? There's no
Thank
table
you,
there.
I wanted to call it out. So this is your table of permitted uses, so P means it's permitted, C means it requires a conditional use permit, N means it's not permitted, and then you have your columns that start farming, the farming and the remainder, those are all overlay districts, they have the O in parentheses. So it simply just says if it's allowed in the underlying district, yes, A, that's A. But like in wetlands conservation, you can't build in wetlands, so it says no, not permitted. So I would just mention here, just as a starting point for conversation this evening, I literally just copied the single family residential row for what has permitted conditional or not, here. So it goes R residential 1, residential 2, and 3 as permitted, conditional use in a business commercial, permitted in village residential, not in the industrial, because no one wants to live in an industrial district, permitted in agricultural, and then, so that was,
I just
Again, for
question the
conversation.
agricultural part of it. But I think that these are allowed on agricultural, right? Properties,
they are.
zones, sorry,
Yes.
That's what it says, permitted.
on there, yeah.
Yep. So I don't know if we wanna like table that discussion until we have a full board, but I would say I think we need to, at the bare minimum, add in definition and then add it in as permitted uses. That's my opinion, but.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't think that we need to, go into, how many people you can have in your house, because that's gonna lead into, if I have a party and it happens to last all week, and I got 20 people staying over, then that kinda makes it the same, right? Wouldn't you think? So if you said that you can't have more than, you have 4 bedrooms, so that make it with 8 people, and then you said plus
Plus
2,
two, so that'd be 10,
so 10 people.
sure.
That kinda limits to, say I wanna have I'm having a shindig for a week, and people are coming over and camping out, and I got 30 people, 100 people.
So there's,
So we'd have to define that so that it doesn't mean that you can't have, a family gathering.
so that, I think the
I know what the
argument to
intent
that,
would
the
be.
argument to that is potentially, these short-term rentals are within neighborhoods. You've got next door neighbors that likely own, potentially own their property and want to enjoy their property as well, and wouldn't necessarily want a overused large amount of people, week-long party happening week after week after week on, and next door. So I understand what you're saying.
I'm just saying that,
And-
but if you're defining that, we have to make sure you define that so that if I want to have a month party, you're not gonna tell me I can't.
So are you talking about renting out a place to
No,
allow
I'm
a
just saying,
monthly
I'm just
party?
saying, when you're determining the amount of people that can be in a residential home for a certain amount of time. I'm just saying that when you say that, that could go into a lot of other things, such as you having your family over, and they say you got a big family, I got a big family, and if I wanna invite them over for 2 weeks or a month, or I don't even care if it's 3 months.
If that
That's all I'm saying.
regulation was specifically for short-term rentals, you can do whatever you want at your property. It
You're
has
not
nothing
renting
to-
to your relatives, you just
It
have them over,
has-
it's different.
It has nothing to do with you renting out a dwelling for monetary gain and doing such and,
And
overcrowding
my point is just, we gotta just make sure that when you limit something, it doesn't limit something from something else either.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
absolutely, no, I get that.
No, I get it.
Absolutely get that. Some of the, sorry, yeah, go ahead, Priscilla.
I think this is sufficient, I think when you're talking about noise or number of people or parking spaces, that should be handled by the authorities, not by us.
So the challenge is without something in there around saying, maybe, if you have a short-term rental, that all any cars that are gonna be parked there need to be parked on the property of the short-term rental. In other words, they can't go out beyond.
ADU has an actual definition in there that says that you have to have off-street parking, so we could kind of mirror that.
Okay,
To make it fair.
sure.
I don't think that would be that restrictive.
Yeah, so, but I think to answer your question, like, without that, it would be very hard for code enforcement to go out to a short-term rental where somebody might have 5 cars along a private road that may or may not be hindering other traffic moving around and do anything about
But
it.
like she just said, Doug, that's not his job. His job is not to go out there and count how many cars are on the side of the street. That would be a job for the police department to go out there and enforce a parking violation, so say.
So I would say it would not be his job to go out and be looking for any of this.
No, but
Right.
even if they called him, I don't think it would be his job to justify parking on the side of the street. He goes out and plays cop. I don't think I would want him to be in that situation to get swore at, because that'd be the first thing I'd do. If someone came to me, I couldn't park on the side of the street, I'd be swearing at him. You know, and I don't think he deserves that. I think that, you know, that's all I'm trying to say is, we just gotta be careful on
We
how we
also
word
don't
it,
have
that's all.
jurisdiction on private road.
Exactly.
Never will, so legally, can't do it.
Yeah.
So let me, this is a question, so I
No,
wanna be
keep-
very,
this is good.
this
Keep
is a
talking.
discussion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If in zoning, there was something in zoning on short-term rentals that said that anyone that's renting out their short-term rentals needs to provide enough parking so that their renters are parking on that property.
Yeah, that's
So,
that's okay.
right, so if they weren't, if somebody did come and there were 10 cars and 5 of them were on a private road, wouldn't that, as a zoning regulation, wouldn't that be something that if somebody complained, it would be enforceable by code enforcement? Isn't that, am I off base?
Not quite, but when it comes to a private road, that would be a question for our attorney, to be honest with you. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know the
yeah,
answer to
so,
that.
yeah, that's okay.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer that, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
and listen, I'm not looking to
No,
put anything
but
in
it's
here.
debate. I want you to
This is-
keep
This is
talking.
what I'm, and I wish Dave was here, right? Because I'm trying to think about the balance of the right of the short-term rental owner and the right of the other neighbors within that neighborhood, right? And like, what are some of the challenges that might be happening? And what might we be able to put in for regulations that are not detrimental to the short-term rental owners, but also is a balance between the folks that are, again, renting the property and the folks that are living there, and that there's some level of, I don't know, like, peace and quiet, probably too
Courtesy.
strong, courtesy, that's great, perfect.
Courtesy.
Right?
And
so-
and we all should have that no matter what regulation you put in.
Right.
And we
I
don't.
mean,
I get
without, if everyone was courteous to everyone else.
wouldn't need this
We
book.
wouldn't be sitting here tonight,
No, I get it.
But to
right?
put a regulation in your zoning to handle that kind of thing just seems like a waste of
So-
time, because he can't enforce it.
Well-
If there's too many
well-
cars or noise, you call the police.
I don't think the town would actually enforce it like that. The police would go out there after numerous calls,
But they
then
would
the town
anyway.
would get involved, and then that would become a legitimate reason to actually go out there and enforce something. It would have to become a nuisance, I would assume.
But do you have to have something in the zoning for the police to go out there and enforce it? No.
No, they can go out and enforce it in any way if it.
And then they stumble upon
And
the
it's
issue.
not against the law to park on the side of the street. What it is against the law is to block or cause unsafety.
Well, it is, you have to be
Right.
3 feet off the road.
One thing I see is an overburden on septics, because an advertisement for a home, for a 4-bedroom home with a 1-bedroom septic, now you're overloading the lot. Septic, you're overloading the lot with cars, you're overloading this and that.
Yeah, so I think in some ways that could be the intent of not allowing more than so many people staying there based upon the number of bedrooms, right? And Tom's here, Tom came with last meeting and talked to us about short-term rentals, and very much appreciate everything that you came with. One of the things that you know, we had talked about with Tom is, yes, septic systems are, like, they're a likely important thing to be considering, right? But should we just be worried about doing that with short-term rentals? Like that, Tom had an argument that that doesn't make a lot of sense. You don't have percentage-wise many short-term rentals in Wakefield. And so why would you just want to regulate that? So with that being said, this is totally different, and this is not a zoning thing, this is a selectman, it would be a health ordinance. Just a heads up, I will likely wanna talk to the selectmen at some point, sooner than later. I've did that before about a year ago, but the board makeup is a little bit different, so I may have another conversation. So, but that being said, like, yes, like, those are, I think if we were to limit the number of people allowed in a particular dwelling based upon bedrooms, that at least has some, the intent of that is to not overburden the septic system, right? So anyways, I didn't necessarily wanna go too deep into that, I would rather, if we
Make a
can at
motion to
least,
table that.
yeah, if we could table that, I would like to hear from Dave. I also think it might be worthwhile, if we had some folks like Tom, and maybe another short-term rental owner or two, like maybe help the board to determine whether there are things that maybe would be worthwhile to put into an ordinance. That again, is not overburden, especially overburden on the people that are being considerate, right? But are there things in there that can maybe help address some of the things that might be going on on a few areas in town, so, okay, all right,
I'll second Josh's motion.
table it?
Yep.
Okay, so you made that motion, do I hear a second?
I did, I seconded
Okay,
it.
all right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm against it.
Oh, you didn't say that.
I say that I don't have I like talking about it.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna table it, but it's okay,
Yes.
but I'm just saying, I want you to know that I don't wanna table it. I'd rather talk about it now, I drove down here and seen it.
Yeah,
So, I have, Peter's here, your planner's here, there's no reason we shouldn't talk about it, but it's
yeah,
tabled,
yeah,
it's okay.
okay, all right, yeah,
Well,
Okay, I just want to point out a really boring one that's on this page. There's also a second row on that permitted uses table, the home occupations, professional uses and customary home occupations.
Yep.
That is a permitted, that is a category in your home-based business section that specifies, yes, you can do this, and it's a conditional use permit or not allowed in these specific districts. So it's just adding it to the table to make sure it's clear enough
Right.
that it's there.
Yep, so just clearing, like, I guess, adding it to
It's a
an
housekeeping item.
administrative update, okay, all right.
So page 2, we wanted to add a footnote to our minimum setbacks in shoreline. I've been unfortunately having to, by my job, send a lot of people to the ZBA, and it's a burden on the ZBA, and I understand that, for a set of stairs that's within the 50-foot setback, for, I've got one individual that wants to build the exact same deck, but they wanna put a roof over it, so now you've got an 8-inch roof line around the whole thing that might be an extra 60 square feet, and I have to send them for a variance because it's just not allowed by our ordinance. This at least allows us to give them an additional, was it 150 square feet, I think?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Extra on, without having to go and see.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where does it call out that it's?
Projects involving pre-existing non-conforming structures may expand decks and associated exterior stairs within the shoreline setback to a certain extent. Refer to Article 25 for limits on expansion, and then I think Article
With a quick question, are the stairs, I've always been under the assumption that the stairs are exempt. are they exempt to any, because you need to have stairs to get on them, whether they go into the 50-foot setback or they
Don't
go.
always have to have stairs though, Mr. Edwards, because if it's not required as a means of egress for entry and exit, we have one right now where there's a set of stairs on the back side of this house and there's a door. There's a deck out front that does not have to have a set of stairs by code.
Yeah.
Okay.
You only need one means of egress and ingress. They wanna put a set of stairs on within 50 feet on the shorefront,
Yeah.
which I get, understood totally.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily required. If it was, then I get that.
But
But they're not.
is it not true that stairs are exempt?
They're not.
They're not, so you do need they do fall into some regulation.
Fall into ours and they fall into shoreline, so we're kind of mirroring that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's part of, what we did is we looked at the state shoreline permit, and what their standards are, and they do allow that 12-foot, extension from the face of the building, that comes from shoreline rules.
Yep.
I'm just mimicking that.
So we'd like to make it a little bit less restrictive.
Yeah.
Doug, you have an audience here.
Sure.
Oh, yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know the process for jumping
Yeah.
in
So-
on this session.
Yeah, I mean, it's not public comment, but I mean, it's such a small group, like, if you have a few things or a couple questions, I'd certainly welcome you to speak.
Okay, I'm Steve Stansel, 243 Wakefield Road.
Mhm.
I'm on the ZPA.
Okay,
And I haven't had a chance to talk with Pete on this subject, but on the ZBA, we've talked a little bit about the same problem. It seems like almost 80% of the people coming before us, it's for this little thing like a stairwell or a small expansion of the deck into the setbacks. And, you know, we obviously are giving them the variance because there's not a lot of impact.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I wholeheartedly support this change.
Okay.
In fact, I probably would have gone a little further, but I think this is a good step, and maybe next year we look at some more.
okay, no, I appreciate that. From your standpoint, does the exception of that not exceeding 150 square feet, does that work for most of what you've seen?
That kind of went, yeah.
So we pulled a couple.
We
We looked quick.
we looked at a couple of things. 150 seemed to be the average. I mean, you could push it to 250. We don't want, what I don't want to see is, okay, we're gonna do a 10 by 10 deck. That's a little bit more than what
Right,
it really should
right.
be, and, you know,
Yeah,
that would require obviously a shoreline permit, and that it's just a little bit more than just an accessory or
Yeah.
just a little bit of, hey, this is missing a 4-foot by 5-foot area. We wanna just kind of
yeah,
draw that line across.
Okay.
Tom has a corner of his that he wants to square off to make it. I'm gonna use you, so.
so, I think you said, tell me if I'm wrong, I think you said that there was an example of somebody that might have been putting a set of stairs with a roof over those?
One particular individual sat down with me, I won't mention his name, he's a contractor from Maine, and he wants to take the exact same footprint of the deck,
Yeah,
build a new deck, but also put a roof structure over with a hip, and it's gonna have obviously an overhang around it by no more than a foot, so
That
you know,
increases the encroachment.
it does, it increases the impervious surface area, so you gotta deal with shoreline, and then it's an added, it's going 1 foot by that linear
Yeah,
into
right.
the 50,
sure,
so I have to say no.
okay.
But it's drip line that's going into the foot,
Drip
correct?
line.
So
It's
you
a 1 foot
understand that
overhang.
it's not the
Yeah.
deck, it's the drip line.
So I just wanna make sure that we're covering that,
We're not,
because it says
because we limited it to decks
decks and
and
associated
stairs.
stairs, like, is there a
We
way?
can revise it.
Is there a way to revise that, just so that would fit, because I'm thinking that from your thought process, that would be something that shouldn't necessarily have to go to the ZBA if
Yeah,
it's
I don't think.
minor.
So the
Right.
decks and stairs, that piece comes from shoreland, but we could do like decks and stairs and any other encroachment, so long as they don't.
So,
So it's
Exceed the
a
150 or-
footprint
Yeah,
thing,
it's
right?
that net
Like, is there a way to
increase.
say that, like,
Yeah,
as long as it's not more than 150 square feet of footprint addition, does that make sense?
See, what I would say to that
yeah, I could
application,
flip it.
that somebody wants to, the deck on the house is this size piece of paper.
Yeah.
He wants to build the same thing, perfectly
Yeah.
okay, right? So now he puts a roof over
Yeah,
it,
he's
the
gonna have-
roof is the same size as that.
Yeah.
But we all build our houses the same. We build a 1 foot overhang roughly,
Of course, right.
so that the water will
Yeah.
exceed
Yeah,
over the deck.
right,
So to me, that makes common sense.
so I,
So I know you're not disagreeing, I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
to me, that shouldn't even be a
Yeah.
thought. Because it's a common sense thing that we want the water to come over the structure, so it doesn't do damage to the structure. Now, if someone said, well, I wanna put a 5 foot overhang, because we didn't have a limit or a rule or something that says it,
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's perfect. But when you're building something on an everyday situation, like I built every house that I've ever built normally has a 1 foot overhang. There's reasons behind that, so that should be a common sense rule, which he should be able to make that decision, say, yeah, that makes perfectly sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead
right.
and do that.
So I guess all I wanna do is to make sure that
Shows it.
we aren't limiting somebody to say, hey, we're gonna give you that 150 square foot, I guess, whatever, option, or maybe there's another word I can't think of, but only if you're gonna put a deck or stairs there, right? If you're gonna cover that with a roof, whoa, whoops, it doesn't fit into this, now you need a variance. So, if there's, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, along those lines, so what if we like just flip it around here so that it's structured so that projects involving non-conforming structures that encroach on the shoreline setback may do whatever, expand or increase their encroachment so long as it does not exceed 150 square feet, and that wouldn't limit it to decks and then say, decks and stairs, additionally, decks and stairs can be, can increase their encroachment so long as it does not extend more than 12 feet, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So kind of create the
I
two
think that-
buckets.
That makes sense.
I would be curious, Steve, if that kind of gets closer to what you were thinking.
I think so, yeah. Some of the variances, you've got the entire house is in the 50-foot setback. And they wanna just build steps out their back door, so it's not even going anywhere closer than
Sure.
the entire house, and we have to, we're forcing people to go to the
Right.
variance, so.
Right.
If there is just some minimum square footage that they might be able to encroach,
It's common sense,
yeah.
and I have the utmost faith in him to make that decision.
Alright, so are we good on that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do we need to make any motions on this, or I mean, that would need to be reworded and.
Yeah, we're still in the workshop.
Yeah, okay, alright.
Required minimum living area. In this day and age, we all know how much it costs to build things. We wanna try and make things a little bit less restrictive for people to build. So we would like to propose lowering the minimum square footage, living area to 600 square feet from 800 across the board. There is a minimum living area for attached accessory dwelling unit and detached when within another structure, meaning like an efficiency apartment, that's part of the house
Yeah.
that you wanna build within.
Yeah.
And, we're still trying to work on that number, I think, just because that's a tough one right there. I don't know the size of efficiency apartments. So, thoughts?
Does the state have any regulations like this that they've recently done or not?
No, I think from like the perspective we were talking about was the threshold for different building code standards for tiny homes versus traditional construction.
So minimum, you have to have a foundation, so, you know, you're looking at around 600 square feet. That's where we kind of throw that in there.
Yeah.
And that's where that started. You have to have minimum 70 square foot bedrooms, and when you accommodate a living room and a kitchen, potentially 2 bedrooms, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we went with that.
Okay, alright.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily against that, I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts. I suppose as long as this doesn't necessarily just, blanketly open up for tiny homes, that would be making a difference.
Tiny homes are typically under 350-ish.
Okay, alright,
That's gonna require, they're not gonna meet the minimum bedroom requirements, they're
Yeah.
not gonna, they're typically on a chassis, they may not have to be, I mean, you could put it on a, frost protected piers or something like that, but.
sure. So I think I'm okay with the 600, I question the minimum of 100, like, that seems
Arbitrary and a
very
placeholder?
small. And,
Too small, cause 70 square feet is the minimum for a bedroom in the IRC,
I
so
will
we can't go
fully
less than that.
admit, when I was putting this together, cause
Yeah.
we just met on Tuesday. So I was trying to get this all pulled together this morning, and I just got to that one point and I was like, this is not fitting in here right, something doesn't look right. So I just threw that in as a placeholder for now.
okay, alright, so, just a question, would you, are you assuming that this living area includes everything needed as a separate unit? Meaning that it would have cooking facilities, it would have a bathroom, shower,
Definitely, has to.
bedroom,
Mhm.
so like, that's small, right?
It's very
I don't know what the right size is, but,
Well, the small house for years and years, like a first time home owner would always be somewhere in the 24 by 24. Right, so what's that, 544, five something? So 600 sounds like a fairly decent number, because that was always a 2-bedroom home with an open living room, dining room concept with a bathroom. So 576,
Yeah.
so 600 sounds like a good number.
yeah,
It's definitely a small home, don't get me wrong, but, I mean, I don't know many people that build 600 square foot homes today, so I think it's far-fetched to see many of them.
yeah,
It could be a single person that's
Right.
retired and wants a smaller home.
My
I've
sugar
seen a lot of
cabin,
single people, there's no
with a
600.
solar panel on it.
Yeah, as a standalone, single family, it's probably not likely. However, I will note that there are communities that are seeing cottage developments, where the 600 square feet, that'd be big for some of the cottages that they're building, that they're doing, more in the 400 to 500 square foot.
Well, that's a good thing, like you said, it's more of a cottage, more of a camp. And I'm not sure
The cottages
where
are not
that,
camps, they are most definitely year-round residences.
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know if we have anything, I mean, we have some land that I would love to build a camp. I don't want it to be a year-round camp, I'd just like it to be a camp that you can go out into the woods and next to the river and go fishing and have a camp to stay. And I don't know if we have, I don't know if we can do that anymore, where you can build a camp, you know?
It's gotta be 800 square feet,
Mm.
so again, that's.
But this makes it a little more acceptable to build it, because I think we've gotten out of that. We're a second home community camp, where everybody would say, yeah, I'm going up north to camp, going to camp, you know, and, I don't see these anymore. As a builder, I haven't built a 600, I built sheds that are that. But
Some of them are that.
we do have land, and we've been thinking about building a camp out on it. And just to have a place to go in our own town where I don't have to travel, we could just go out there and build a camp. But like you said, I know it's an 800 square foot thing, and it kind of puts it out of commission. Because 800 square feet doesn't sound like a lot, but that's, it's a 20 by 40
Decent size.
building.
Yeah.
you know?
Right,
But if a family wants to build a 24 by 32, 768 square feet or whatever it is, and I have to deny it because it's just not quite,
yeah, yeah,
and I don't
But a
think that's fair.
24 by 24 wouldn't be possible here.
No, and that, and my point was the 24 was just years in this business, we always built little 24 by 24 houses. You know, that was your first time home, you know, or they're buying a modular, it was always 24 by 24 or 24 by 30, you know, it wasn't ever very big, but you don't see, like, again, I don't see that today in today's world of spending. They just don't build like that, they build monster homes for one or two people, you know, so,
yeah.
but that's all good thought, good,
Yeah.
good thinking.
So I guess as far as like the minimum, like, we would
Get a look
get
into that.
makes sense on that.
Yeah, I was playing devil's advocate, I'll get in trouble with Pete here, I was like, why do we even have a minimum, well, who cares? That's a building code thing. That was my take, so Pete didn't appreciate my answer,
I live in,
so.
I live in a shed
I don't
with an
know.
outhouse.
Well, that's the next thing that he has to deal with, is that
Yeah.
people building a shed, I mean, I build sheds that are that all
Oh, yeah.
day long.
Yeah,
And you see and who's to say that there's no one living in it?
yeah.
I
say,
know, I
I
see
can tell you quite a few people who'd be like, sure, I'll live in that
Yeah,
shed.
exactly. So,
Just give me the
Plenty of
property, I
space.
just want the property, I'll live in the shed till I build a house.
no, it's hard to make those decisions.
I think that's a good idea.
Right, it's
Yeah.
it's like
this-
almost the size
So
of a
this
sugar
minimum
shack.
though, the idea is this would be an accessory to
This is, yeah,
a primary dwelling on the property.
exactly,
correct?
this is when, this is trying to encapsulate those instances where, you know, you've got like the ADU that's just carved out of the existing home, you know, they take a couple rooms and transform it and say, okay, we got a bedroom and we're gonna put like a little efficiency kitchen associated with it
Yeah.
and done, grandma can live there.
Yeah.
And have her own independent space and great. But just trying to capture that, but it'd still be part of a larger structure,
Right,
for codes,
right.
so.
Would
And
would you
again,
be
it was
to,
a random number.
would you be to do some research to see if there's other towns in the state that have anything that would, like, just as examples of what a good,
Honestly, most towns don't have this at all.
so what would that mean though, that somebody couldn't build anything that is less than so many square feet, cause we don't have a minimum, is that?
Well, I would think it would go back to the building inspector with his ICU or whatever letters of what is the state allowing,
Yeah, it just has to meet code.
Right.
just meets code. You know, we as a town, have adopted the IC, whatever, 2000 and
International Building Code?
International
Yeah.
Building Code, and we've adopted that, so it kind of gives you that limit, like you said, your bedroom has to be 70 square feet, and your bathroom has to be certain feet, or whatever. I mean, so that kind of eliminates you
And
being the bad guy.
yeah, and the point of having a minimum, what it's doing is it's zoning out tiny homes, is what it's doing. That's, I mean, that's it.
And again, I don't know if I'm quite for that, I like the idea of these little tiny homes, but do I want them, a whole development of them? No, but, I wouldn't see anything wrong with a common sense thing saying that, you know, you got a piece of property and you're out in the middle of the woods and you're never gonna build a house out there, but if you wanted to build a little tiny home to be a place to go and sit with your grandchildren or so say, or whatever, you know, it's hard to make these decisions because you're not speaking, you're trying to speak for everybody. And I get it, it's very difficult, and, but regulating someone to be able to do something on their land is very hard for me to do, because I believe in homestead rights, and, so, yeah, it's, you know, but I'm always negotiable and able to talk to change my mind on anything, you know, so.
So explain to me what happens if this minimum living area wasn't there? So what does that mean? Somebody comes in and says, I wanna build an ADU, I know that I can build something up to, was it 950 square feet now, compared to what the state says, but I don't wanna build it that big. I only wanna build it 300 square feet. Like, is that allowed?
And it triggers a whole different set of building codes, right?
It does. It does.
So I just Googling, Conway came up as an example, and they just have a simple line, and I just clicked it, so I'm gonna lose a little glimpse. They just said, and this is, I know what they did here, I'm just gonna go back. It says, non-transient residential units shall have a minimum occupiable floor area of 450 square feet. Done.
This here
And
is,
then it goes on to what's included.
this here isn't an ADU, right? This, you can, if you have a piece of property, that's,
It's
That's
not a
residential.
detached,
Well, it's
right,
just
you could just,
within,
Yeah, I don't-
within your
you can put it on
home.
a piece of property without other houses on that piece of property, right?
so this particular minimum living area is
Say again?
addressing
You can
an
put it on a
excess.
piece of property and not have other pieces of, other homes in that.
Well, this particular one we're talking about is within your single-family home, so your home that you have right now.
Okay, all
If
right,
you wanna say, I'm gonna put a wall up where my living room is, cause I don't need this side,
okay, I got
I
it.
can make an efficiency
I
apartment.
didn't get that, I'm sorry.
Or a garage, right, maybe
Or a garage.
above a garage and attic space or something like that. Yeah, so this does not address what you're saying, like, oh, I wanna build a cabin in the woods.
Nope.
Right?
No.
Now, that being said, it doesn't mean you couldn't go to the ZBA and get a variance to build a cabin on your property.
Correct.
It's an added step,
Always that
I get it, right? But that is an option.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily consider that a bad step, you know?
Yeah, sure.
It's just a procedure.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I try to explain to people, you know, when I say, well, you can't do this, but you need to just go through this procedure. I don't have a problem with procedures.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I want the people on the other side of that procedure to make sure that they accommodate those people to get them to what they want.
Sure.
As best that they can.
Sure, yep. 450 square feet kind of seems like a lot in a way, if you're trying to build an efficiency unit for, say,
Yeah, they have
an
a,
elderly parent.
yeah, they have
Seems like
a
it.
separate, I hate, they use the E code 360, which I don't find the friendliest, but it is easier to search, kind of. For ADUs, they say not less than 300 square feet, and it doesn't specify attached or detached.
Now, what towns is that?
This is
Conway?
Conway,
Yeah.
it's just other than Wakefield, it's the one that popped up searching.
And 300 is little, you know, so
Yeah,
I don't have
I mean,
I wouldn't have a problem with that, you know?
Yeah, without doing too much like research or thought about it, like that doesn't seem that unreasonable to me. Is it, what about from your, you know more about this than I do. You're the one that's out there, you know how big living areas are, is that reasonable?
You need about 100 square feet for your bedroom.
Yeah.
For the bathroom, 2 feet sticking out for the vanity, plus 3 feet
You
to be
need
able to walk
40.
past it.
You
So
need 40 square feet, because a 5x8 was your
5 by 8
standard
standard for ADA
bathroom
compliant.
for years and years and years.
Is that with a shower?
That's with shower, toilet, and sink, everything,
Yeah,
5x8.
So now you're up to 140 square feet.
yeah,
Then a kitchen with no island, but you have counter spaces, if there's a wall behind you, you still need 3 feet of clearance no matter
Right.
what, so you
Yeah,
have to try
I
to
say
consider
10 by
that
10.
too.
yeah,
That's
That's
100
100.
square feet,
yeah,
so it's getting, it's close,
Yeah,
that's
and then,
no
I mean-
living room whatsoever.
right, and
Right.
Yeah, so
would be
to me,
nice to have a living
300 to
room.
400 square feet sounds reasonable
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
that you could live in it comfortably.
yeah,
Sounds like a studio apartment.
Yes, a little less.
Yeah, stupid,
So-
but-
Cooking in the bathroom.
Sounds like my dorm room in service.
yeah, right. So would folks
Hey,
be
you could be
okay
a
with?
prisoner, man.
They get a 6 by
You have a
6.
32 square foot house, you got everything you want right in there.
There's a 6 by 6, not 5 by
Hey,
8.
Tom,
3 squares a day.
3 meals a day right in that one room.
Little Jerry.
So for this minimum living area, what do folks think about if we had 300 square feet?
I think that'd be fine.
Across the board,
Um,
or for the attached
Attached,
three hundred,
Yeah,
okay.
I'd say I think the.
I think 300 is better than 100,
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
right.
And the six
because
hundreds,
100, I
I'd
don't think you
say-
can do anything in.
I'd say for the detached, leave it at 600.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Again, Steve Stantz at 243 Wakefield Road. I guess when I saw this, I questioned why the difference between having it detached versus attached. In my opinion, I would keep it simple, have 300 square feet. And I mean, it just seemed, so like, if I have a garage, I can put a 300 unit in, but if I wanna put it, just separate it a little bit, it has to be 600. And I can connect it to a house without common walkway.
Yeah.
And it can be 300, but separated, and it suddenly has to be
Yeah,
600.
I think it should be across the board, just like you
So,
said, 300.
yeah, what I was trying to do is just the standalone structure. Keep anything that's a standalone, it is it and nothing else. Bigger than the tiny home. And anything that's within another structure, like, so the ADU is embedded within another structure, then it's already gonna be larger than,
an ADU is an ADU.
I know.
If the objective of the state forcing this down community's throat is to create more attainable housing and opportunities for seniors and people's children, because you remember, you still
Yeah.
have to have owner occupied in the principal structure.
Sure. Right.
Then I'm not sure why I see a difference between detached and attached.
owner occupied, they blew that on the wire, did they?
So the owner has to occupy either
either,
the ADU or the main.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't believe that's changed.
no.
Doesn't have to be a family owner, that's what it was, okay.
I love the 300. I think that's a good.
Yeah, I think so too.
So 300 for all ADUs and then 600 for everything else?
600 for principal housing.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if that's the word I'd use, but I mean, what I'm saying is your primary structure on the property, which
Right.
is your home, that should be the 600. But I think, like he said, across the board, 300, whether it's attached or detached, I don't, and that detached or the attached thing where they come up with a heated door and all that, I mean, that just makes it confusing.
Agreed.
So there's a lot, that I would leave up to our department head to make those common sense decisions. But without burdening him.
I mean, I guess I don't have a strong opinion either way, if the others think that 300 across the board. In reality, I think a lot of folks would probably say, hey, you know what, to build something that's 450 square feet probably doesn't cost that much more in the long run, we're just gonna build it that way,
absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
we're probably talking about like only a few, there's probably only a few people might take, I don't wanna say advantage, but might utilize this and build a very small.
But but look at it in the square footage. 300 does not sound like a lot, but it's still 10 by bigger than length of this building, this room, I mean,
Sure.
30
Oh,
feet.
yeah.
I mean, that's only
Right.
20 feet.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not a small as you
Right.
think it is,
No, but if you're gonna build an accessory dwelling unit
Oh, yeah,
that's
I wouldn't go with
detached,
300.
you're probably gonna think about, well, geez, maybe I don't want it just one bedroom, maybe I want it two bedrooms.
the international code is 400
For,
for the 300 square,
so international code says minimum is 400?
no, it says 400, yeah, that's kind of for a tiny house, would be under 400,
I haven't looked at that one.
yeah.
But I think you're on the right track, Doug. I think the
But we're-
300 across the board and 600 for them, principal house.
What about
So,
the exemption
but
on building permits below 400?
in this, when we're talking about this minimum, we're talking about
Well,
an
a tiny house
accessory.
is generally defined as 400 under international code, under 400 square feet. Under ICC Appendix Q, International Residential Code.
Appendix Q
And then,
is tiny
basically
homes.
it's exactly what she said.
Appendix Q is tiny homes.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's what I mean, that's what they define as a tiny home. And basically everything you said, it falls into that as well, Jeff.
Does a tiny home not need to
600.
have a regular foundation with frost walls? Is that the challenge that?
I have to do some studying on it. I've been
Yeah.
kind of staying away from it, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
we don't fall under that, because we
Right.
don't allow less than the specific square footage that a tiny home would be.
Right.
What have we always used as square footage before we needed a frost protected foundation?
Living space, heated,
Yeah,
water, electricity,
600?
no matter what. Well, so 600, yes,
Okay, and
unheated.
but unheated, but we allow buildings to be put on slabs at what size?
600.
It's
And
600 and under,
Unless you have a engineer design pad.
Which makes sense.
which is a monolithic slab. Okay, and those are the things that are like very vague, because you don't see that, you know, like, because that's a hard decision, because I've built many buildings that we just wanted to put it on a slab, that's how we always used to do them, but now, you know, it makes quite sense to put things on foundations for that reasons, but I didn't know how big, where we draw the line. But, yeah, again, those are the decisions that I've always left to.
They restrict it a little bit more now to eve height and second story storage or
Second story
second
living
story,
space,
no go,
yeah.
anything more than 9'6", no go.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. Yeah,
Oh, meaning anything more than 9'6", you would need a foundation, couldn't be on a slab? Is that-
Correct.
it's in heights of walls.
Unless you get an engineer to
Yeah.
design it,
Okay.
which they could.
Yeah.
Most of the buildings that are over 600 square feet that do have that have a slab, they're steel. So they don't carry that much weight, so you're not putting that much of a burden on the exterior perimeter of that foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I guess, are we getting into anything vague if we were to reduce the minimum of an accessory dwelling down to 300, regardless of whether it's attached or detached?
Yeah, if it's detached standalone and it's 300 square feet.
You know my thought, no, please.
You don't want one?
I don't, because it gets into the tiny homes.
Yeah.
And there's just a can of worms there that
Okay,
I think there's,
so what allows us to stay away from that? If
Well,
we
first
keep
of all,
the-
what would make you not want a tiny home? It's the new fad, it's a thing that's been happening now, and some of these tiny homes are quite better than the ones you're living in yourself.
tiny home only has to be in one means of egress, and that door can be smaller than normal. So a young couple, maybe, sure, but now if you put a full family in there and they can't get out, that makes me nervous. It makes me nervous if a propane tank goes off, or if there's a small tiny home wood stove that's in there that torches that thing and sets it on fire and people can't get out.
Essentially the size of an RV.
Just makes me nervous. I just don't wanna see anyone get hurt, to be honest with you.
And so the.
What do you think as a zoning board? I'm sorry.
No,
Well, I think-
okay.
I think that we don't wanna restrict tiny homes, I have to keep coming back to the thought that it's an ADU. So it's not gonna be, a principal structure. So you're only gonna get one of these, and I think we cut out an opportunity for people to place. You know, I went online today and I looked up, you can get, outside of tiny homes, you can get kits to build these one-bedroom units for like $17,000 that come complete. You know, I don't know about the ICU and how that's addressed, but I know other communities allow them, so I don't know how they're doing it. So maybe we suggest 300, but we do further research before the final number.
Yeah, I would propose we look a little bit deeper into the
Yeah.
minimum.
Is there a way to state that, I guess regardless of what that minimum size is, that those structures would need to meet certain code?
Snow loads, smoke and CO detectors, minimum bathroom or plumbing code, electrical code, and I would assume energy efficiency code. The energy code may blow it out of the water too, I don't know.
But also like, is egress, is that the right way to say it, like as far as having like, what's the building code, like how is it defined to say that you couldn't just have like one door? What is that, is there?
Actually, you can. In your home right now, you're allowed to have one door. The clear opening space has to be up to 32 inches wide.
Okay, do you then need like, the windows need to be a certain size, so
The
those could be
bedrooms have
another?
to have a minimum of 5.7 square feet.
Okay,
If you are not at ground level, if
Yeah.
it's at ground level, 5.0 square
Okay.
feet.
so I guess what I'm trying to
So
see is, would there be a way to address your concerns around the safety aspect, but also allowing the minimum of an accessory, a detached accessory dwelling unit to be some amount of space?
and
that
there
might
are
be-
some exceptions in the tiny home code. I just haven't read it yet,
Okay,
so it's not in my memory.
Does the tiny room have their own,
They have their own
like a,
section,
yeah.
like a modular?
section Q.
Yeah. Yeah, cause you know, you take a modular and it's totally different than how I have to build a house.
Oh, God, yeah.
I can't figure that out, but it's how it works.
Engineer designed.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, cause they're still allowed to have certain stairs that we have to build certain others and.
Yeah.
No, I don't like that, but.
is the tiny home code that you're referring to, is that international building code, or is that a New
It
Hampshire?
is, it's an international residential code.
Okay,
So it has
If
its
we
own
don't-
rules.
if we don't have in our zoning tiny homes specifically, does that mean that they're not allowed? Does that mean somebody couldn't come in and say, oh, wait a minute, now you're now allowing a 300 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit, I wanna use a tiny home for that, and therefore, like, maybe the egress isn't as big, and maybe the safety features aren't what maybe typically would be required. Is that,
Correct.
we could fall into that, right?
could.
That's what you don't necessarily want to.
They would just have to get that specific tiny home that meets those requirements that the state sets forth.
Well, except our code currently says it has to be 800 square feet.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, if we
So
change the
that's not a
ordinance.
tiny home.
Yeah.
No.
No.
If we
Yeah.
change the ordinance,
Right,
Yeah.
so you can't, right now you can't.
Yeah.
or if the town does.
Tiny home.
So without doing a lot of research, like my opinion right now tonight is like, I'm okay with going smaller from a minimum size, but I'm concerned about safety aspects. I don't wanna see something where, you know, somebody moves in, they don't, and because it somehow fits under tiny home and that there are,
And I get that,
Right.
and I respect that, but again, tiny homes are going across the country. So if we worry about everybody making wrong decisions, we might as well just play mom to everybody, you know what I'm saying? So I get it. You know, cause you need some kind of way of keeping safe. You try to keep the people safe, because people will make foolish decisions.
Does a reduced square footage, I'm asking the question, does a reduced square footage of say 600 square foot for a minimum size for a residential single family home, does that put a little bit of a chokehold on the taxes that come into the town for the tax revenue. If there's 2 or 3 kids that are in that home that are going to school and,
Yeah, so that's been an argument before,
okay,
right? I mean, Wakefield used to have a 1,200 square foot minimum, and it's been reduced over time. That being said, I mean, just the affordability of homes today.
Yep,
it's
absolutely.
ridiculous in New
Just
Hampshire.
a thought.
So, yeah, like, I can certainly see that.
How many of those tiny homes could I put on my property?
It's still a dwelling unit, and you still
Yeah.
gotta meet the density
You see what we
requirements for
fall
dwelling
into
units.
is you
So you're
become
not gonna
something
get
else.
more homes on that property.
It grows into something different.
It
Yeah,
does,
that's
but like
right.
Jen said, for the R2, you need an additional acre for every single tiny home.
Yeah.
In the R3, you need an extra 3 acres, you know, and then
Yeah.
moving on up. Agricultural, you need another 5 acres
Right,
for an extra 1.
So on the kid question, I will say, I need to pull the more recent update to the study of New Hampshire Housing, just released not too long ago, an updated study that is a statistical analysis on the number of children per dwelling unit and what drives the number of children within a dwelling unit, and it is tied to bedrooms. The more bedrooms you have, the more children you have. The fewer bedrooms you have, the fewer children you have. So if you have something that is small, that only has 1 bedroom, you are unlikely to have children in that.
And that must be that's a statistic, correct?
Yeah.
Correct, it looks,
Detroit,
they pulled, multiple municipalities across the state of New Hampshire.
Because our community, that's not happening.
No.
Because we're actually decreasing in children.
Correct, every community is as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's because we're a retirement community and not such a homestead community. We got more people coming to live here than ever, but we've always been a community of retirement.
Birth
Second
rates are
home.
down
Yeah.
but we
across the
did grow
board.
in
in
the
New
school
Hampshire.
this year by about, I don't know, 8 students.
Oh, we did finally, because it has been going down for years.
They go up and down, by the end of the year, it'll be down again.
Yeah. Oh, great discussion, good debate.
Okay,
Yeah, so I guess can we table that minimum and,
yeah, so for now, we're thinking 600
And 300.
and 300.
yes,
Where 300 is across the board, ADUs, but we
Yeah.
wanna take a look closer at the tiny home pieces
Right.
and what is in appendix Q or
right.
whatnot, and go from there.
Like, or is there a way that we could, ensure that even if it is a 300 square foot standalone, that it would have to meet building codes, safety codes of what I'll call a traditional dwelling unit, and not that of a tiny
Yeah.
home. I don't know how you
Yeah.
say that, but,
It makes sense
Yeah.
because as land value goes up,
yeah,
you know, if people wanted to buy, and, you know, usually they buy land, they live in their RV for the first year or 2 while the house is being built, you know,
Right.
that would even, wow.
right.
Okay.
Alright,
Good. Was this was a state mandated one?
yeah, for the,
Oh, yeah, that extra footnote, yes, that was one of the state mandated ones, that you can just ignore, I just
yeah,
keeping everything consistent.
okay,
I asked to define living area.
Okay.
Because it wasn't in here.
yeah,
Exterior footprint is typically what I do when I charge for, permits and whatnot, but, you know, it's kind of come up as a question every once in a while, so living area refers to the heated and habitable space within a building. It includes, but is not limited to sleeping, eating, and sanitation spaces, as well as closets and stairways. Those are finished areas, those are typically heated. It excludes unfinished or unconditioned spaces that are not habitable year-round, such as garages, attics, basements, and 3-season porches. It's calculated based on the area of all floors measured from the exterior face of the exterior walls, less the area of unconditioned spaces as measured from the inside face of walls. That includes cathedral areas that are charged, well, they're not charged, because you're not living up there.
Yeah, okay.
It's a finished space, but the ceiling's typically
Yeah.
just finished. But if there's a loft, then that's calculated as livable space. I
Yeah.
just wanted to define that.
I'm gonna ask this really stupid question, just bear with me. So if I have the exterior of a home like this, and then my walls are, what, 6 inches?
Correct.
What are you measuring? Are you measuring the,
Outside.
the outside? Okay.
Because it's a valuation,
Yeah.
especially when we calculate for our
Okay.
permits.
Yeah.
And we have to take that into account because there's studs, insulation,
Got it.
sheetrock, siding.
Yep, no, just clarification, that's all. A finished attic, a finished basement, does that count?
Yes.
Okay.
have it both
As long as like from safety standards, right, like you'd have to have egress and,
Absolutely.
right, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I think this makes sense. Others okay with this?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, Charlie, this is a little restricted.
Yeah, this one changed.
Private
I
campsites,
was looking at this one.
we've had, this has been a hot topic. Period no longer than 120 days consecutive. I've gotten the question, well, okay, so I'm gonna keep my camper there for 2 months, and then I'm gonna pull it home for the weekend, I'm gonna come back, and that resets the counter. So we wanted to define that a little bit better and just say May 1st to October 15th for each calendar year.
Jeez.
Okay,
Go ahead.
no, it's okay.
Well, I like the idea that they have to leave and then come back. So they restart the calendar. Good game.
I also wanted to remove the 2 years for the duration of the building permit. I'm still a little on the fence of that one, but here's the reason. Staying in a camper during the winter, it's not safe. It's very dangerous. We've seen some stuff like that happen. I know that it's up to each resident that does it. I understand that. And maybe that's not for me to say.
How many year-round campgrounds are there in New Hampshire right now?
A lot.
There's quite a bit. And a lot of them stay in
That's
these
a
little
good point.
pop-ups.
It's a good point. So maybe that's just,
Well, as
This
a,
is a private campsite, it's not a
Yeah.
campground.
It's not a
Correct, not a
campground.
campground.
Exactly, that's the difference.
yeah, this is campground that you're talking about, or
Private
this is just,
campsites.
when you say private, that's like me having my camper in my yard.
yep.
yeah,
Okay, as a camper
And living in it.
and living there, yeah, well, I'm
I
not.
might need to do that. Jeez, you know?
so,
Let's just keep going up.
so,
We did have a couple jokes about
We did. Yeah, that was a tough one.
that there are some campers that are more affordable than some
I
places. to
had
live.
I had a good friend that used to have to live in it, cause he got kicked out of his house, and he had to live in one, so that was like, you know, that's kind of what I think about when.
Well, the big fancy ones were
No,
more
but
affordable
I
than a
agree
house.
with Peter, as in, you know, when you're living in a camper, first of all, I personally don't think you should, a wood stove should be allowed in a
No,
camper.
no.
Okay, and they put them in it, I get it. That may deter them from living in it through winter, because I have lived in mine when we were building our house, just like anybody else, and I lived in it, it was cold. But it was a pain in the butt, because your pipes were kept freezing, so it's kind of a hard to live in something like that, so do you restrict it, or do you wish them luck, you know?
so, yeah.
But I like the idea that if you had a rule, it would be, to me, the safety factor that he's into. But to me, having a wood stove should not be permitted
No.
to have in a camper. It's just not set up that way, it's not made for that, it's just not made. Are they made for living in? They're made for staying in for quite some time, but are they made to live in on a everyday for years? No, they're not made for that, or at least they're not made for that in
Here.
our area.
Because in Florida,
In
they,
Florida, they do.
Well,
They
a
live
lot
in
of, a
them.
lot of people strip out them, put wood inside of them, and then at that point, it may be livable year round.
Yeah,
But I mean, the number of people
but
that look at
there's
living
gotta be,
year
there's gotta
round
be a
is-
little bit of
Yeah.
a safety
Yeah.
thing on campus, I get that. And, tell somebody they can't, on your own private property, I guess, again, I don't know if I'm for telling somebody they can't have a camper there, and if your kid wants to come over and live there for, I don't know, I have to determine what living is, is it for life? Yeah, I don't believe that that's a good thing. But if it's a temporary thing, but how do you control that? He can't, he doesn't know.
You're right.
It's hard to control that, so the more these rules that you give and make this someone's responsibility, now the town is taking that responsibility, and now you put yourself into a predicament that you could have some kind of lawsuit. So sometimes I say, stay out of it, let people make their own decisions, but I don't wanna see a trailer park, a camper park in somebody's yard next to my house, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's hard to make these decisions.
I think the intent is a couple of things. One is, you don't necessarily want children to be living in a camper full-time forever, right? Like, that's not,
Like, put them in there so
Necessarily.
they can get out.
and that, say you have a neighborhood that is established, you have a couple, like, additional lots that are in there. Somebody buys a lot and say they're gonna build on it, they put a camper up and they start living in it, and then they never do anything. Like, to me, I
Well,
think
does
we
that
should
fall
have.
under the 300 square foot? Cause the campers are probably 300 or better, right?
But that wouldn't even
20
fall under
26.
a dwelling unit.
It's not a dwelling unit.
Yeah.
No, but if I had my house, and I live in my house, and I had that camper outside, does that fall into an ADU? Or anything, it doesn't.
Well, some of
Even
them
though
are
it-
vehicles.
I think,
Some of them are vehicles.
I think the next,
You
number
drive
line
your car.
3 addresses it being a permanent residence,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
can't be used as per, and also like down below C says, storage of private camping structures, you can park your RV on your
Oh,
property
yeah, forever.
forever,
Right.
that's not the issue, it's just
Living.
using in
Yeah.
it, yeah, living in it.
Right,
You
so,
still can't use it as a permanent residence,
no,
yeah,
but
so it addresses that.
this is a question, because I don't know how I feel, I honestly don't. Are we removing some folks' rights of trying to be able to afford to build a home and be able to then live on that property for some amount of time while that home is being built?
Yeah, that's what I
Instead-
don't like. Correct.
Instead of saying, oh no, you can't live there, and now you've gotta go rent an apartment also, like,
But don't we have that, aren't we set up right now, as
Right
we
now.
stand, that you can have your camper there and live in it while you build the building?
It's for the duration of the build, there's a few tweaks, I've been just, allowing for the duration of the build.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was concerned about the winter, staying in the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, your beard is still white, I'm staying in yours.
I don't-
His hair is still, no, I agree,
Well,
what
I
was,
upgraded and bought a
See,
motorhome,
you-
so I
you-
don't really care.
you wanted to change this
It
then,
was-
cause what was
That
already
was my
there,
concern, I don't wanna
Yeah.
see anybody get hurt, and
Yeah.
maybe I can't do anything about that.
yeah,
yeah.
I
Heart's in the right place, maybe my mind always is.
I agree with you, because we did have an RV fire in town, which, and they happen throughout the country.
Right.
And, but like I said, we have these year-round campgrounds, it's not a year-round campground, and they can't use it as a permanent residence still. So you still limit them to one winter, maybe two. Right? But at the end of the day, there are gonna be people that might need that situation.
No, I agree,
Okay.
I do,
But I totally understand what you're saying.
I humbly agree.
So is that, would that
Do
be
you agree or
different?
disagree?
So, one of the things you were suggesting here is to put in a date range from May 1st to October 15th, right? Would that only cover when somebody's using that campsite and not like building a house?
Correct.
So, if that's the case, like, I can see both sides. But what if
Is it-
somebody wants to use it to go up and go hunting in November? Or they wanna come up and stay in it to go
They just do,
skiing or
because there's
ice
no
fishing?
enforcement.
So-
You just do it, and because there's no enforcement. It's hard to make a rule if you can't enforce it. That's all I try to say to you, is making the rule is okay. But if you can't enforce it, there's no reason to put yourself in that predicament, that liability of having it.
Yeah, because 120 days, it's like, you know, I could get away with that easy,
We would
without
need
anybody ever
a,
knowing.
not quite part-time, but a 10-hour person to keep track of that. We would.
Well, it seems like a
I
lot,
couldn't
because
do it.
like you said, they leave, they come back, you give a new
Yeah.
permit, you know what I mean, and,
Yeah.
but like, I agree with him, it's, then you can't allow somebody to come up in the winter and, you know. But
You know
again,
they're doing it, but
well,
I've got a
exactly,
neighbor that does it.
I've used mine, I've used mine, I've lived in Danforth Bay for years while we built a house and stayed there in winter, and I had that seasonal site there on for 9 years, and we used it all winter long, is it cold? Absolutely, but you know that, it's just, I didn't have a wood stove in it, but those are the things that I think are important, is that you can't have these certain things to accommodate you to want to live there for the rest of your life. But
I get that.
again, it's hard for his department to enforce that, because there's not enough of him to enforce it.
what happens when a year rolls around and their building permit is up?
Then they renew it and
Because
get
they,
another year.
exactly,
Renew it.
yeah,
It's just, it's
So it's
ways
income
around
for
every
us?
bit of it. That's why I always
is that
say,
revenue?
why do you take the liability and put it on paper so you get the headache from it? Sometimes you're best to let it be and just let it be, because once you take the responsibility of it, now you're stuck with it. Now you have to enforce it. And if you can't enforce it, there's no reason for it to be there on paper. That's all. I don't care that you wanna make it, I don't want people living in a camper. I get it. And I'm a pure example of camping, but I'm going tomorrow in a motorhome for 10 days. I get it. But don't take the don't make the town take the burden to make people accountable or of wrong decisions. If you're going to, then you gotta enforce it. You can't just have it on a piece of paper. Makes no sense to me.
Right, but without anything here, it potentially could work against a neighborhood that would like to see that home finally being built on that property.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
So what we currently have is what's crossed out here, right?
Correct.
yeah,
Okay.
so maybe not including the living in it while you're building, are there other challenges that you see from people coming in and questioning what maybe a neighbor is doing on their property around campers? And
Quite often.
okay, and is there anything here that would help address that? Like,
The
does
time
neigh-
frame thing is the biggest
Okay.
thing. A lot of people they all keep
Oh.
watch. So
Got
that
it.
person, I think, they pulled them in, on April 1st,
Oh,
and now it's
yeah.
December and you need to do
Right.
something.
Right,
Well, then I ask, and I pulled the camper out in October and I came back again. So it's.
That's why I'm saying, it's hard to enforce, because they can do that. I can pull that camper out, come down and say I want 120 days, whether it's winter, summer, fall, or whatever the season. So
Then why put a limit on it at all?
that's it, that's my point. is
Just
now you-
limit make sure that we define that it has to be hooked up to a septic system. If you connect to a water source, let it put that out and that's it.
but we say any camping vehicle connected to a water supply should be hooked up, okay?
Correct. The state of New Hampshire says if you bring gallon water jugs into your
Yeah.
camper,
Yeah,
you do not need to be connected to a septic disposal
Yeah.
system.
okay,
It's not gonna generate enough runoff
Yeah.
for the soaps or whatever you're using that for to spread down
Yeah.
and cause that much damage. But
Sure.
when you connect to any water source, from a pump, a well, a big tank,
Yeah.
anything,
yeah.
Makes sense.
I just don't know, how do you determine like what permanent residence means, right? Someone's been there now for 9 months. And and they're not building a house, they're not,
permanent-
right, they're just like, it's a,
The definition of permanent residence today, in order to register your vehicle or to be, you have to consider yourself a permanent resident, is 6 months. 6 months and a day, I believe.
With an address.
Because we went
Which you
through
can't
this,
get
we
with
went
a
through
camper.
this with another issue years ago, it took 12 years to get through it. But that was one of the biggest part of it, was how do you consider the permanent resident? Are you a resident of the town of Wakefield? You have to live in this town consecutively for 6 months and a day. And anything less than that, I believe, and don't get me wrong, I don't know, I've never read it, but was always the thing, and I've been on these boards for 20 years, and we've been through this before. And it was determined that 6 months in the day, because 6 months is split in the middle, because it's 12. You had to live that one extra day in order to claim residency in the town of Wakefield.
But you have to have a residence, and the
So that-
home isn't a camper's not a residence, so.
And it was a campground that we did this, it was talking about this situation.
So they're living in their RV or whatever it may be, but they've applied for a building permit, correct? So then, once that year is up and they need to reapply or something for extension,
6 months, you have to have an actual foundation in. If you
Something
don't,
substantial.
then I revoke your building permit.
Yeah.
Get that in, the next 6 months, you have to have the next inspection, which you would want to anyway.
yeah. So does that kind of
Okay.
cure itself?
Typically,
So that sounds like it would be okay, right? Like that would, but how do you, somebody owns a piece of land, they put a camper there and they start staying in it, they have no intention of doing anything else in the land.
But
So-
then that's where it comes into the effect that if you've got a stable building such as a camper or anything, the state requires that you have to have these hookups in order to do, so that would determine the eligibility of living there. They can't provide a septic system, then they cannot live there.
Okay, alright, so
You
with that, they put a septic system in, they drive a camper up and they hook it up to the septic system, right? Maybe they have a well, and they got electricity coming in, they start living there. This here says no campsite should be used as a permanent residence, like, how do you determine that? Like, should we or could we add a definition of what permanent residence means?
What about address?
Oh, okay, you could call it, you could have it, I guess, a PO box, does it matter?
No, but that's the way it is with all rules, there's a way around them. You know what I'm
Right,
saying,
but I
there's
think-
always there's always a way around.
So, in my mind, I think we don't want to disallow somebody from being able to use a camper or have a campsite on a piece of land that they own, right? But what we don't wanna see is that people can just live there for the next 10 years in a camper.
Absolutely,
So how do we, it's a question, like, how do we
I don't think you can.
zone for that? No, I mean,
Well, it
we
seems like
have that,
you
I
have
just don't know
something.
how easy it is to, so we have, no campsite should be used for any means as a permanent
Right.
residence.
Yeah.
However, if, say there's a next door neighbor that is complaining about the person that's living in that camper, how does,
Well,
how
that's,
does,
that's.
how
Nope,
do
he's
you
got a
deal
building.
with that?
Nobody's got
that's
a
when I get a complaint
Right.
and I start an investigation.
Right, but it, I
They
don't,
have to have a building permit,
well,
as they're building a house,
You
I get what you're
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
how do you
That's what meant to-
enforce that?
should kind
How
of
do you know that they're living
regulate
there?
that.
yeah, how do you be able to keep it
That's,
so it's used for a temporary, could be a long, 6 months or so in summertime. But how do you keep it so it is not a year over year someone's living in that camper, right? There's been some examples of that in town,
There,
absolutely.
I've
There's
pursued
some right
it.
now.
and so,
I don't
like,
know how
can,
many-
if we had a definition of what permanent residence meant, and if it was something that said, I don't know, anytime it was over 7 months of duration,
Well, we have it, it's 120 consecutive days.
Yeah, Yeah, we actually have, we have something decent in there, and
So,
what
do
he's
we
trying to
just-
say is he wants to change the safety aspect of it, really. I totally understand what you're saying.
So, yeah.
But at the same time, we shouldn't be limiting what people can do on their property, per se, if they have.
There's a certain amount of freedom that
Yeah,
people
Yeah,
have.
and we have something in there now, where if somebody bought a piece of property and they said, oh, yeah, we're gonna live in this while we build that property, they go get a building permit,
Yep.
and then that building permit runs up, the neighbor's complaining, you
Yeah.
go out there, it's like, hey, you guys had a building permit for this, you gotta reapply to get a 2-year extension or whatever it is that what it is? 2 additional years they can,
for
up to 2 additional years.
I mean, unfortunately, this
We
has
just-
been a challenge
Yeah.
It's
for
always
like
gonna be.
a decade or more.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
I'd probably leave it alone for now.
We've dealt with this on these boards, Priscilla, for 20 years, and on the same piece of property.
Yes.
And we fought and fought
I know,
in court
I know.
and court, and who
Yeah.
won? They did.
Because you still have other ordinances here that deal with that, that deal with other issues around that. The safety issues more or less what you were going after in that.
That was the thought.
And I think that's a judgment on his part, I think, I know that my board would stand behind him on making that common sense ruling, that you can't have a damn wood stove in your camper.
Yeah, and they couldn't rent it out as an Airbnb, and there's even things in place that
You
prevent them
cannot
from
collect
doing
rent
that.
for a private
Exactly.
campsite.
Yeah,
No
so
matter
it's not
what.
like, oh, my cousin's gonna rent it out to my cousin next week.
You're not supposed to do that.
I mean, the challenge is like what happens when you drive by and you see that stovepipe sticking out of a camper?
Then you
That's
have to, he does what he does, he writes letters.
Maybe you have
Fire
that,
department,
His procedure is he writes letters,
Yeah.
they have to answer them, they don't answer them, he sends them certified, he knows they picks them up. They have a certain amount of time, then you start finding them. You get you start finding somebody $250, $500 a day, you're gonna get their attention. It might not be what you want, but you're gonna get their attention.
the formaldehyde,
Huh?
been there, done that, right?
formaldehyde in some of these campers and putting a wood stove, really people do that?
Of course they do.
That's amazing,
Crazy.
that's amazing.
Okay,
Alright,
so
so are we deciding,
what are we doing?
I think at this
We're
point.
talking, we're having a
No,
debate.
no.
Permanent's
I think-
What's my homework?
New
I
Hampshire's
think,
pretty
I
bad.
don't think there is any homework, I think what we're.
No, I would
thinking is
propose
at
to
this
leave
point,
it.
We leave it as is.
So
as-
no amendment.
as,
I would amend
Put a
not to
bullet
put
in
a
it.
wood stove
Huh?
in their
We're
camper.
putting a bullet in.
I don't know what you do about that, I mean, that's a definite safety issue.
Are we changing paragraph 1? That's for a period no longer than 120 days?
No, I don't think so. At least, I don't think we should. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
I think it should stay.
Scrap the whole thing and don't amend it.
Personally, I don't have a problem with it staying the way it is, but because I know damn well nobody follows it. So it don't matter what you put there, you just go ahead and enjoy putting it there, they're not gonna follow it.
That was actually increasing it to 150 days, by the way.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
so
exactly.
one
I'm
fifty.
just pointing that out, Charlie.
That even sounds good.
I know.
I'm just saying people wouldn't follow it anyway.
But it narrows it down to a time of year though.
I could see people wanting to come in, March and April too. because of-
Yeah, 150 days, I like that, I didn't catch that, but I'm okay with I'm okay with it all. Just-
If you wanted to change it to 150,
Doesn't matter.
Just change it to 365 and you're all set.
365
No,
and
I
good
don't,
luck.
so I.
no, you have some things in place, it just doesn't address like the safety issues like you said. But maybe we added something in there to address the safety
Maybe
things,
the
it's something to think
150
about.
is a good thing, because it gives, because the,
I think
like,
some of that
like you
stuff is
s-
just
what
not
we just said a few
clean
minutes ago.
Yeah,
The
I know,
climate
it's kinda
change,
tough, huh?
and things that move further into something.
Exactly.
So somebody may wanna start.
There should be some code that you
I
can't
wouldn't
put
go home
wood
to the
stoves
end
in
of-
the
Common
RVs.
sense.
Into November,
Somebody
you
would
know?
Right. Well, let me back up a bit. A big part of the challenge from your standpoint is that trying to determine whether it was 90 days, 120, 150, is you've likely got some interested party, not the one that owns the land or the campsite, saying, keeping an eye on it, and it's been more than that 90, or it's been more than that 120, or it's, and then you got the other person saying, yeah, but I hauled it away and I started over again.
And it also still has to abide by, the sewage as well,
Always,
always, yeah.
when connected.
Yeah.
But that was one of the challenging things. Well, I pulled it up, I pulled it home, and then I
Yeah.
brought it back, so that restarts the 120.
Right, because it's the consecutive.
Who would think of that? People do obviously.
They do.
Yeah, so you almost waste your time
There's
going out.
one right up on Sandy Pond, right there, that's a perfect example.
Oh, yeah.
That's there all the time, and he did the same thing, he pulled it out, pulled it across the street, left it for a day, would put it back. It's simple understanding the rule, okay, that's what you want.
Yeah.
How hard is it to unhook? Okay, I hook them up every day, it takes me 10 minutes to hook it up, back it up, and move it out.
Take a picture, date it, you're all right, it's not here.
Some might flush all the lines and
All right,
everything.
next
you know?
one.
Yeah, alright, moving on to family compound.
Family compound is, that's a tough one, it's a challenging one for me in code enforcement, or well, more building. I wanted to try and not restrict it, but to the point to where I wanted to have a conditional use permit put on a family compound, so that in the event that it does cease to become a family compound, now they are held liable to have to make that change to subdivide, because it's a condition on the property. It's not just a open thing.
So, my opinion, I've said this before, I'll likely say it again. This was put in here because of a past, planning board member that no longer lives in town, for his particular property and his property only, period. My opinion, but it fit his property to a T. He's no longer here, doesn't live, I think he's in Florida at this point. We've had all kinds of challenges with this. If it was up to me, I'd remove it.
When you mean remove it,
Take
not
it
have
out.
a family
Not have
compound?
it. You wanna put multiple pieces, you don't put multiple dwellings, like, for one thing, you can now do that with an ADU, right? So you have way more options than you had before. It specifically talks about, it should be set up so that you could subdivide it in the future. But it doesn't require you to do that, which then gets into, okay, so maybe, a parent builds two additional dwellings, so you've now got 3 dwellings on a particular property, and it fits into this family compound thing. Once maybe those parents pass away, or they wanna sell it, and wait a minute, whoops, we can't subdivide this because it doesn't fit current zoning, it then is this kind of nightmare challenge. And then what? You go to the ZBA and cry, well, wait a minute, I built this family compound. Well, somebody knew what they were doing when they put it in there, and they didn't have, it suggests that you have the ability to subdivide, it doesn't require it.
Yep.
Again, my opinion only, this should have never gone into our zoning, and if it was up to me, I would put it in front of the town to say, remove it.
Didn't we have something like this at the ZBA when you were on there?
I don't know if I was sitting on the board at that
You
point,
were an
there's been a
alternate at
couple
the
of them.
time, I remember it.
Yeah, there's been a couple of them.
So by putting in the conditional use permit, we also changed each dwelling must be located on the parcel in such a way that if subdivided, then it can be, it'll be
Can be
conforming.
legal.
Applications
So-
must include a plot plan illustrating compliance.
So basically,
we're
we
not
were
talking
trying to
about-
come up with a compromise. It says, great, you can do
Okay.
it, but let's set you up so
Alright.
that when it
Okay.
ceases to be a family compound,
wait a minute.
you can deal with it
So
administratively.
let me ask you this then, what would be the benefit of building it as a family compound versus just subdividing the property?
Correct, that's my point, is when you have a reason why they would, now I've built a dozen of these this year. When these people are asking for a building, and the reason why they call it a family compound is because they don't have enough land to subdivide, to make the 2 pieces. So a family compound is already decided that you can't subdivide it. That's why we build a second home on there. And I have done, literally, I've done a few of these this year. That it's because they had 9 acres instead of 10, and you need 10 in an agricultural area to be able to subdivide it.
Yep.
So they call it a family compound because they can't do that. And yes, that restricts them in the future to ever sell that house separately. It has to go with that piece of property. And what happens with that is their investment isn't quite as much as they wanted, because you're not gonna get as much for that piece of property with the 2 houses on it if it's not
It's forced to
two
be
separate
sold
ones.
together,
Exactly.
right, and so to me, I think, personally, my opinion, I think that's an issue, and I don't think we should be allowing that. Just my opinion.
You don't.
Well, no, I think we
There-
do. I think we do, meaning
Because
that,
Article 18 tells you the maximum number of dwelling units you can put on a piece of land. Depends on the district, and it's based upon, you have to have the number of acres for each dwelling unit. So if you're in the R3 and you wanna do a family compound with 3 homes on it, you need 9 acres.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you, that
You
you need a
You're not
certain amount of
exempt,
acreage.
you're not exempt from acreage on a family compound. What you do become exempt from is frontage.
Correct,
And
and I agree with you.
so is it frontage only?
it's frontage, it's your lot layout, it's how how you're, you could, when you draw lot lines, end up in setbacks and things like that.
But then you get those ones that you got 9.8 acres, and 3 of those acres are in shoreland, and that 5.8 whatever
Yep.
is in agricultural.
Sure.
So you gotta compromise a little bit, because what do you decide what it is?
Yeah,
Right,
there's,
so it's hard, cause I just did one,
Subdivided.
you can't.
no,
Why?
there's
Because
a,
there's not enough land, when you've got agriculture, you gotta have 5.
Oh,
And
okay.
then in the shoreland, you need one?
Need
One.
one.
See, so,
something in here on
that's where the common sense comes in.
so Article 35 addresses your split zone lots and how you do that math.
I mean, if it was 0.2 acres, like, you could get a variance from that, I'm sure that you get it, or you could ask for it, I'm sure you'd get it.
So the other thing is they can use that example, Charlie, you take that 9 acre lot, you do a family compound, you put all the houses within a 1 acre area, and you've got the 8 other acres, it's kind of like a cluster, doing it that way, you can't subdivide that
Correct.
because of the way it's
But
laid out.
that's where I go, is most, and I'm not gonna say every time, because I don't know, but every time I've ever done this, and I've done a lot of these, it seems to me, the reason they go to family compound is because they can't subdivide it to begin with. And, because it would make sense on an investment to subdivide it.
Right.
I've heard the other argument, is cost, so it might be the parents who own the larger property, they continue to own the larger property and they build a house for their kids, on it, and then it helps, saves land costs for the kids when they build the house, that way.
Yeah, I personally don't like the careful planning is encouraged where it currently
Oh,
says
yeah.
although not required, I don't like that. So I do,
That's a
I
free-for-all.
appreciate,
Yeah,
I appreciate that you're looking to, I think, if I understand this right, that you would need to be able to, at least under current zoning rules, subdivide. You might not be doing it now, but if you're gonna fit under this, then you would be technically would have to be able to do that.
Correct.
I would be good with that.
was my first
40
answer.
here in town.
We
Well, it
kind
doesn't
of,
mean- it doesn't mean
We
that
did
something
discuss
can't
it.
be done. It doesn't mean that those just cease to exist.
No, I know that,
Right,
but
you just
but the
couldn't put a new
precedence
one.
has already been seen.
And if they
shown.
built,
And the thing is, and these changes won't address those that have already been built.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
So there's still gonna be an
Yeah.
administrative nightmare in the future.
Right.
But how do you say no to one, and the one next door just had one done? So that's my point. If
Because
it's
the zoning,
already,
because the zoning changed.
then,
You want less zoning.
exactly.
I wanna remove this.
I just want a conditional use
I'm giving
permit.
you a hard
Oh, I
time.
know, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll allow them, but I want a conditional
I'm
use.
fine with that because it has a maximum of 3 dwellings on there.
So
That's existing,
then,
yeah.
So-
now with the 3 dwelling
Yeah.
units, this goes, to the next page. Where they're located on a lot, the shared driveway shall be upgraded to a private road. E911 is, we're dealing with this right now. There's an individual that they're building a family compound, they got everything that they need. So you got dad's house here, son's building this house, they're gonna swap. There's a cell tower, there's an address, now there's 3 addresses.
Yeah, right, which
E911 is making us, we may have to make that an actual road name. Because it's
name
no
the
longer a
driveway.
right of way, we have to name that going in for E911 purposes.
Okay.
And then another good thing for you is the use of single-family dwellings in a family compound is limited to family members and occasional guests, no rent may be charged. I can't keep track of that, I can't police that, so to speak, so we just wanna take that out, cause
Makes sense, yeah. Well,
saying you can't do it, but, I mean, charge my kids a couple $100 rent, you know, so
that's it?
yes. You know what I mean?
They all come back.
You wanna
Yeah.
try and help out your parents with taxes and stuff like that, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way of regulating that.
I have 2 houses next door to each other, and my daughter lives in one, because I charge her rent. I'm lucky that it's subdivided, because this could be a nightmare.
I don't see any problem with the changes that you wanna make, and I think that maybe it's something for a deeper discussion to why it's even there to begin with. At another time. But it clearly served a purpose at some point, to look into it, well,
Serve the purpose for one person.
as most
And
of
he
these
never
housing
even
bills
he
do.
never even acted on it, which is interesting.
I know one family that it's going to really help them out right now, because they're doing it, and I think it's a good thing. Their daughter is able to build a house on the same property for them and
It
make
is.
it affordable.
It is,
Makes a
because
huge
not only
difference.
that, but they sell that house to the kid, in most cases. And sold it, it's a beneficial
We
thing, I
got
think, in
one
the
right
long run.
now, right on the Brighton corner.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Yep, it's helping them out
that
significantly.
was my land, and I can't imagine where they're putting it. There was even enough land to put it there.
Well, if you looked at how many people have lost their jobs this year, and probably still gonna grow with that number, it's probably a good thing. Because a lot of these lots are not subdividable.
Well, then how, if they're not subdividable, then how would one sell that one
I know.
house to their
They
children?
do it,
I
they
know,
do it
the
behind
value
scenes.
is-
They
I
can't
hear you
take that
saying-
house and sell it
Yeah.
to somebody else, it has to be a family, has to stay in a family. But the parent is just making them pay for the house,
I
basically.
guess so.
But when they're gone, what happens, right? Yeah,
Right,
I
and
understand what
it
it
just,
does.
it causes
I
some
understand.
challenges, right? Like, so a child is buying a house from their parents and they're paying for it, yet it can't be subdivided, and maybe it's not through a bank.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, their investment
Yeah.
It's
is
not
worth,
as
is worth nothing.
Correct, that's what I said.
And
right
so
from the
that's, like,
Yeah.
I have a problem with that.
No, it's
Putting
sold
in
as a whole
conditional
package.
use permit on
Yeah.
it kind of defines it a little bit more tighter.
Yeah,
In the
and I,
event down the road that this becomes an issue,
Right.
maybe in a court of law, we would have more bite.
yeah, so I'm fine with the way it, with the changes that you're proposing.
I think that we should probably look at it down the road.
We're not gonna need to change today.
No, not at all, that's what I'm saying, so
It's
let's
up to the town.
Exactly.
Yep.
leave
See
it.
it there,
Yeah.
see we'll talk about it again when everybody's here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the last one, or maybe not.
Bunkhouse.
Bunkhouse.
Come on.
Everybody
So
needs
we
a bunkhouse.
defined this thing already.
Oh, no.
With the bunkhouse.
We, bunkhouse cannot be used as a dwelling unit, that's it, we took out leased and rented. Again, another thing that it's impossible to enforce. A bunkhouse area shall meet all fire and building codes,
Period.
simple.
Yeah.
Keeping this 260 square feet. Permitted on a lot only if the lot's a conforming lot that meets the minimum lot size, shore frontage, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we want-
Does the bunkhouse
took that
have
out.
to, when you call a bunkhouse, that's basically a bedroom, correct?
It's up to 260 square foot.
Bedroom.
Bedroom and bathroom.
I think that
Bedroom.
bunkhouse,
Something
Put a
to
bathroom.
sleep at.
Yep,
So
No kitchen.
would that,
no kitchen.
so would that be considered, part of the dwelling? So when I say that, it's like you got a 3-bedroom house, a 3-bedroom septic house, and you got 3 bedrooms in your house, and you want the bunkhouse, does that consider a bedroom to make you enlarge your septic system?
It does,
Yeah.
by
I think it does.
by state regulations, for sure.
Because I've been through that, I've been through that, and we had to upgrade the system in order for them to have to keep the bunkhouse.
Yeah, it's 5A.
so,
Yeah,
why would you get rid of leased rented? Cause you can't enforce
you
that.
can't enforce it.
Yeah.
So.
Because like a bunkhouse, the original bunkhouse idea was for workers
Yeah,
in the first place. It wasn't for a living unit in the beginning. It was all designed for either farm workers or workers, whatever it may be, right? So,
Now it's like.
now it's like
property,
now it's a
you want
tiny house. I see you have this,
Small bunkhouse with 2 bunks in there, and they wanna put a bathroom for the kids, and then have a place to go and
yeah,
have their own privacy, well, you know,
and now you increase
it's a good
this.
thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You find that a lot on lake houses. You have one of them
That's the only place I see them.
on the lake over there?
No.
Just
We
curious.
have a garage with a bunch of stuff in the attic, but I wouldn't wanna.
Now, would the increase in square footage here on the next page relate to the bunkhouse?
We did not increase the bunkhouse square footage.
Okay,
no,
okay,
The next one is,
okay. I
So
was just,
before we move on from that.
Yeah.
So, maybe devil's advocate. Somebody has a bunkhouse and they're using it as a short-term rental, that's okay?
It's not okay, but
Well-
it's something you can't
But that-
enforce.
I'll give an example.
Yeah.
I know son no longer lives with me, was a rock climber up at Rumney. There's massive climb, like, rocks you go climb. But there is a place right near there, that is a place that is has a bunkhouse that you can rent a bunk. It's
well,
kinda
they're on
like,
top of the mountains.
yeah, it's kinda like a hostel.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's
Yeah.
rock climbers go and they rent a bunk and they stay there and they climb.
I don't know, are we open,
I don't know.
it's a question.
That's what I thought
It's a
of,
question, I don't
as an
really
example.
know, are we opening up,
I don't think,
an easy way for people to start basically building hotel rooms?
no, because you have, well, you wouldn't have
You
a
only allow
bunkhouse in a
one.
garage.
Okay,
It would be a
You only allow
garage,
one,
alright.
right?
you only allow one, and you actually can't have one
Yeah.
if you have an ADU.
Yeah,
vice
right,
versa.
right, you can have one or the other, you can't have both.
Oh, and so it
Yeah.
does restrict it.
So there are other things that deal with that.
There are some
Yeah.
restrictions in there that we
Yeah.
did not change.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'd also like to change the paragraph 2, just because I don't like the extra words.
Which one?
Which is.
Why does it say any of the
Bunkhouse.
following, a kitchen? Just
It's
say,
not
it's not
permitted
permitted
to
to have a kitchen, period.
I don't know,
Well,
I don't know, I just, as I was sitting here
Because it's
looking
meant
at
to
it
sleep
afterwards, I'm
in.
like, I'm
Because I
sniffing
think
It's
that out.
meant to sleep only.
I think initially it might have said a kitchen and then be a bath,
Oh,
maybe.
They can plug a hot plate in. Would that be considered a kitchen?
No,
I defer to,
stove.
I defer to him.
It's a stove,
Okay.
Where Michael
it's a
was.
place to
Yeah.
prepare
Yeah,
food,
Yeah.
a stove determines, and we've had discussions before.
Which makes sense as a bunkhouse.
place to
We've
prepare
had
food,
discussion on a bunkhouse before, and I think it's the one
Sink,
that I did up on
stove,
Farmers Lake.
refrigerator.
I wanna give them all that. Outlet.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar to the campground thing, we played with this before.
Yeah.
It's all good
Alright,
discussion.
So you get rid of that verbiage and said building code, basically. You
State
just summed
fire
it all up
building
into
code.
that. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Article 36 permit required, this is something that's already happened. This happened when the 2021 code change came out, because the amendment that the state voted on was to allow everyone to build up to a 400 square foot structure without requiring a building permit. Still required to have a setback affidavit by the town that falls under our zoning ordinances. So, and if anybody, and I'm just throwing that out there, needs any advice on how to build a 400 square foot in our snow load region, so that way it doesn't cave in on you. This is not for residential, this is not to stay in, this is a shed, 20 by 20 garage, whatever you wanna call it, not attached.
Yeah, as funny as this may sound, I have plastic sheds, which meet those criterias, but do not meet snow load and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's weird.
when you know, it's a shed,
Yeah.
it truly is a shed, you
Yep.
know, it's a she shed, cause it's her shed,
Yes, it is.
That isn't sexy.
but it's
This is
plastic.
something that's
I get a lot of
mandated by the
laughs
state.
when
You
they
can't
go
use
by
it.
it,
I
because
just
I'm a
want,
builder.
this is just a guess a question. I read this and I interpret it as this is not something that someone could live in,
No,
right?
no,
I
this
just
is
wanna
not for
make-
living.
Make clear. that,
Correct.
Like, this is written well enough that anyone would interpret it that way. Is that-
Correct.
That seemed,
One story detached unheated accessory structure.
yeah,
That's the way that the state writes it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanna convert that to a bunkhouse, but later on down the line, right? But maybe I didn't build it for snow loads, and I didn't put it, I had, I literally just like put it on the ground, like I had maybe pressure treated 2x4s, like, you can't do that, right?
It's too
Like,
big. Because it's 400 square feet, not
Okay,
260.
but you know what I'm getting, you know what I'm
I
getting
do,
at? Like,
I do, I
there
do.
would then be like other things that would kick in to say, well, wait a minute, like,
Correct.
this is not something that is, built,
And again, it would,
Yes.
it's livable, habitable space, which would entice a building code officer to make a decision, does it meet these certain regulations?
yeah, and so you just.
Can
read
you
this
make
out.
it such? Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
sure, right.
Double
like
your
you could-
rafter
you
ups,
could- right,
your rafters up, spray
Yeah.
foam the thing
Yeah,
and
right.
put foam on it or
Right.
lift it up and put a foundation on it or
Sure.
something like that if you wanted
Yeah.
to make it into that.
Sure,
Yep.
okay, alright,
It would take some steps
yep, okay.
or pre-plan. Wanna go over the 577?
Well, we've already gone over the ADU, so
Yeah.
everything
Right.
following from here on, we've already gone
Right,
over.
Yeah, I was gonna say-
However, I flagged 3 things to bring back again.
Okay,
So, after some discussion,
C1
so the ADU's definition, when adding the definitions of attached and detached ADUs, used new statutory language verbatim.
okay,
It's confusing. And particularly the portion about detached,
yeah,
with its neither nors. And it could, I don't know. There have been different opinions on pre-existing. Does it have to be in a pre-existing structure? Or is it saying, no, it doesn't have to be in a pre-existing structure? And rather than use language that is structured overly complex,
yep,
why don't we just be plain in our
meant that
language
way.
and say, yeah, you can just, it can be attached or it can be detached, and situated either in an existing or new structure.
sure.
We don't care.
Are we
Yeah.
breaking any rules by
No.
the state by doing that?
No.
That makes
Common
sense.
sense.
So that was just a clean the language, make it simple.
Yeah,
Paragraph E, I was missing something in the sentence. Joe just wanted to make sure I flagged it again because the piece that was missing was the piece that says it may be converted. So wanted to make sure that you knew that, yes, you are saying, yes, you can do this.
And then you have household, one or more persons living as a single housekeeping unit, another one.
Oh, yeah, so that was, before I had put together a revised definition, so we had family and then the defined term, and I had tweaked the definition itself, and we don't really need to amend the definition, it's fine the way it is. It's just the word family versus household,
Yeah.
it's households, it's not families, we're not requiring people to marry the person they live with. Um,
Common-law marriage doesn't exist anymore?
Doesn't matter.
So what's that?
My brother lived with us for a while, like, this, so, oh, well, I guess that's still family, but still,
So we don't necessarily have to go back and change any of the.
No, I'd be fine
The
with it.
two-family, multi-family, single-family like that.
No.
is- okay.
no, cause it ties to the definition of dwelling unit,
Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
in a household,
Just one thing, and Jen, I didn't get a chance to
so,
mention to you today, but when I was going through the RSA, it says subsequent condominium conveyance of any accessory dwelling unit separate from that of the principal dwelling unit shall be prohibited unless allowed by the community.
we
So
should
I
add
don't-
that one,
So
Yeah,
I
that's-
don't know if we wanna specifically say
yeah, we can add that one,
in here that it can't be sold.
That
Yeah.
would be a good point, yeah.
I will add the no condominium, thank you for that catch. Conveyance. Provision. Oh, I missed it. Okay, yeah, I'll add that in. Okay.
Are there any other things that we haven't already covered?
No, and what I did is, the previous drafts you had, it was zoning and development regs, separated it, they follow two different paths towards adoption. So this is just the zoning items. Thought here, we have a couple that we have, put a little pin in it to revisit, after a little bit of research. I think from there, what we need to do is, this is a lot, like an awful lot. Is think about how things move forward, and how things are packaged. Because that's,
I mean, a lot of
There-
this we're required to, period,
correct,
right? The town
Correct.
can, I guess, vote it down if they wanted, but
right, and
That'd
I
be
think we
interesting.
could, and I don't know if you can do like a big omnibus
Well, we can't
warrant article for some of those, or I don't know
we
that
can't
we
go less
can,
than
but,
state,
right, so,
What happens if they,
you can only go
what
greater,
happens if
you can
got
impose more.
a state regulation that they've done and the town votes it down?
you can't enforce your zoning, that provision of your zoning ordinance.
So even though it's state zoning or whatever,
The state would trump.
you can't enforce it?
You cannot enforce your local zoning, that local zoning provision if it violates state law.
so it's kind of ridiculous, because your vote doesn't mean anything.
No,
Yeah,
no,
so
you have to
that's
be
what I'm saying,
equal
why-
or greater than state law.
Yeah.
Never less than.
State law trumps.
So why would you have to go to the
Can't
town
use that
to
word
ask to
trump,
pass
I
it?
just caught myself.
Is that,
I guess it's just a routine.
No, I guess,
Yeah.
right, because that's how.
It's the structure, it's the way it's set, the procedurally, it's the way it's set. I mean, it all comes back to statute, cause statute, in New Hampshire, we like to think of ourselves as home rule, we are not. We never have been.
Well,
No.
we're now less so.
We've always been at what's called a Dillon's rule state, in that as a municipality, you can only do what the state has enabled you to do. So if
You can
it,
impose more. You can impose more than the state does, you just can't go less than.
Correct.
right, but for example, I'll use
you
a
can be
really,
stricter.
I'll use a really, really simple example. Master plans, okay? State says you have 2 mandatory chapters, and then it provides a list of optional chapters. you can't adopt a chapter that's not on the list because the state didn't tell you you're allowed to. You have to find a way to say, well, it's essentially this. You know, we worked with Newmarket on a riverfront plan. Well, it's downtown, so and neighborhood plans are allowed, so we called it, it's a neighborhood community character. So we pulled two things from statute to justify it. But if the state doesn't say you can do it, you can't do it at the fundamental level, so.
And I guess as far as like, yes, we have to change that zoning.
Yeah.
In some ways, the town has to vote for it, but we don't have the right as a board just to go in and make changes to
Yeah,
our zoning, right?
and again, that, you know, that's something that just don't make sense.
Of course
If
not.
the vote means nothing, like, bother.
Why put it to the voters? That's exactly, if it's mandated by the state, why would you say, hey,
Well,
guys,
that's
you want
why
us to
we've
do
always
this or
said on
not?
the warrant
That's-
articles,
that's
that's why we
sensible.
always said on them articles, on the definition of the article,
Yeah.
you always say this is mandated by the state,
Yeah,
and generally it gets passed.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Most people wouldn't even check off the box. Why bother? If it's mandated, I wouldn't check the box, I'd leave it alone.
Alright. Is there anything else?
Very good discussion.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Definitely, Peter.
Alright, anyone have anything else before we come close to wrapping it up?
Just a minute.
Yeah, no, yeah, so any public comment? Does anyone, do you have anything?
I have one thing,
Yeah.
and you don't need to answer necessarily today, but at our last discussion, it was brought up that we have permissive zoning.
Yeah.
We have our Article 3 tables,
Right,
and short-term rentals aren't listed in there.
right,
And I'll just throw out on the table that rentals aren't there either. So I don't know if there's special rules or regulations around long-term rentals, but if I'm reading or so there might be other things buried, because I didn't read all, I haven't studied all 100 pages of our zoning regs.
Yeah.
so the difference is, we don't, it's weird, right? So it's tenure, so you can't regulate whether permanent housing is owned or rented. It's where it's transient and there's the income producing where it crosses into commercial and it's a blend of residential and commercial. There is the collection of the state rooms and meals taxes on it that differentiates it from renting your long-term permanent residence, your primary residence. So that's the difference in the
But if you got-
transient versus permanent.
But if you got a rental, like you just said, like if
Yeah.
you're renting it,
Yeah.
that's gotta be commercial, cause I'm working for a guy that has 50 units. He does this for a living,
I know,
you know?
Well, I think the state defines as these short-term rentals as a hotel, transient in nature,
yes,
if I'm correct.
that's the
And they
distinction,
believe that, if I'm correct, that they actually pay that sales tax because of that.
Correct.
You pay a meal sales tax because you're seen as basically as a hotel.
and you
business.
wouldn't be doing that
Yeah.
if you were leasing a property
Exactly,
for a year or.
Exactly.
correct.
So they already kind of fall under their own kind of regulations per se,
Correct,
in nature, as long as they do it legally, right? And all that, so.
I mean, in some ways, I think we're getting into, this might not necessarily make common sense, but this is the way that the state has determined how it's defined. My opinion, I still think it is worthwhile and valuable for us to put a short-term rental ordinance in our zoning, so that there isn't this, gray area of people having questions on whether it's allowed or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but more to come on that.
Good comment.
Anything else, Tom? Okay, do you have anything else before, okay? And thank you for coming, appreciate the thoughts and the comments. Okay, so moving on to approval of minutes from September 4th.
Motion to accept with any recommended changes.
Do we have changes?
I don't have any recommended changes, but somebody might have them. It's a blanket way of approval.
I'll second that because I don't know if Priscilla accepts her own wording, so I'll do the honors of doing that, I guess.
So this will work, so I will say, if you wanna remove the second S from the end of Tom Daniel's name,
Oh,
and
okay, I'll do it.
and then I think we're good. So, any further comment? Got a motion and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, alright. Okay, and, next meeting date is October 2nd. It sounds like we may have a conditional, a conceptual review.
Okay.
According to, email from Amber, but I don't think we have much, I don't think she had much detail on that yet. So we will, meeting on the 2nd. If nothing else, go ahead and motion to adjourn.
Second, oh yeah,
Alright, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Alright,